Tucked away in the valley of Los Angeles, 42 miles northwest of Disneyland, sits a tiki bar with a 78-drink challenge called the Grog Log. Drink all 78 drinks within 1 year, and you get a plaque with your name on the wall. Let's join two thirsty friends for a little My Time as they embark on a drunken journey through the log and talk about dumb shit like theme parks, drinking, and drinking at theme parks.
Welcome to My Grime, a podcast where we're drinking a spooky amount of tiki drinks in hopes to get our names on the wall. This is... How long do I go with this?
You keep going, because I think people like it.
Okay, this is grave.
And this is glory.
I simultaneously love and hate us.
Me too.
Okay.
That's my existence, to be honest. I love and hate myself.
I love and hate us.
Yeah.
Welcome to My Time. It's spooky season. We're My Grime during spooky season. We're recording this in August, but guess what?
It's the week of Halloween Horror Nights opening.
No, this is coming out.
Oh
We've
my God,
already
I'm
been
dead.
to Horror Nights.
I'm dead inside.
So future me is listening to this right now being like, you didn't even know.
I mean, how many times did I text you today being like, it's next week?
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on the thing at hand.
Today, listen. Okay, we're breaking format a little bit because we have a really, really fucking special episode. We got
one of my favorites we've recorded.
I know. This is really fucking awesome. We've had this in the drive for a while, just waiting for the right moment to release this. We fucking interviewed Jeff Beachbum Berry,
who is the curator of the Grog Log.
He invented the Grog Log. He's the reason why we're fucking here right now.
And I will say, once you hear this, he even maybe calls us this in the interview, our kindred spirits.
Yes, we are kindred spirits. He created the Grog Log, which is this book of drinks that we're working our way through. He tells you about his history, why he wrote this book, what this book is, what it means to him, and we talk about what it means to us and what it means to the Tonga Hut. So listen, we're going to kick it to ourselves.
In the past,
interviewing the guy, and then we're going to come back and then we're going to drink one of the drinks that he tagged as
one of his favorites,
of his favorites, or one of the drinks that we should drink. We've already had, he mentions the Navy Grog. We've had it.
Because I was like, yep, one of my favorites.
Yeah,
yep.
He mentions La Florida. We've had that one. If you ever wanted to know about Tiki history, Tiki culture, Tiki anything, this is for you. Okay, so without further ado, here's our interview with Jeff Beachbum Berry.
The Tiki GOAT.
Yeah, the Tiki GOAT. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Thank you.
Jeff Beachbum Berry, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Aloha.
Corey and I are working our way through the Grog Log at Tonga Hut out here in Los Angeles, and we're podcasting and reviewing the drinks.
There's a lot of stinkers in there, man. That was my first book. I was just putting in anything with any kind of historicity at all. It was a bonus if it was good.
Well, we've had some phenomenal ones for sure, but we've also had some.
Well, later on, as I learned more about the whole thing and found more recipes, in Remix, my fourth book, I took a lot of those really crappy recipes out. And just sort of rewrote history, but you guys are suffering through all that stuff right now.
Yeah, we didn't know too much about any of this, and we realized we got to try to get you on the podcast. We want to learn about you, and we want to learn about the birth of this thing that we're doing. How did you find your love of Tiki?
How much time do we have?
Yeah. I guess who is Jeff Beachbum?
Born in Albany, New York, but my parents drove out with me as a 2-year-old to Los Angeles. Well, this was 1960 when I was 2 years old. Grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley and a little bit in Ventura County too. And when I got to be about 6 years old, say 1964 or 65, my parents, being from New York, being from Brooklyn and the Bronx, the food of my people was Chinese food. That's where when they went out, they would always order Chinese food in New York. And that's what they looked for in LA. And they just happened upon a place, and they took my brother and sister and I to it. called Offang's, and it was on Ventura Boulevard in Encino. Offang's started out in 1962 as a place called the Bora Bora Room. And I found out from the people who decorated it over at Oceanic Arts. I don't know if you know those guys or not.
Yeah.
But, they outfitted most of the Polynesian themed restaurants of the golden age, including Trader Vic's, Don Beachcomber, et cetera, et cetera. They also were hired to do the interior for the Bora Bora Room. And between them and the other artisans and contractors and people who put the place out, they just did a brilliant job. I mean, it's like this completely hermetically sealed Technicolor South Seas movie set, indoor waterfalls and lagoons and live birds and canoe hanging from the ceiling, the whole thing. And for the Disney people, a tiki with an intercom in it, this is very enchanted tiki room. It didn't talk, but you talked into it. The waiters talked into it, into the speaker to send the orders to the kitchen.
That's pretty cool.
I love that.
So anyway, the place to me was just like heaven on earth when they took me there, and they just went there to get, chow mein or what have you. But for me, when you walked into the dining room, you had to go through the bar, and the bar, in a very like Disney-like move, instead of having a mirror behind the bar or having bottles lining shelves behind the bar, which is the norm, they had like a miniature island scene, like a diorama with resin beach.
Oh, cool.
And sand, and then little foot-tall palm trees. And they had built a cabin on stilts. And behind that was this ever-changing dawn to dusk lighting diorama, which would,
so cool.
The stars would come out, and the sun would come up, and it would just be like just this brilliant thing. And when my parents were leading me into the dining room, I just stopped and stared at this thing, and they just sort of pushed me along. And that was the beginning of the rabbit hole.
Our core memory moment.
Yeah.
It really was. And when I got old enough to drink in 1980, I started seeking out these places because I really wanted to have that experience, the full experience. When I was a kid at Offang's, you would see people drinking, Navy grogs with an ice cone built around a straw and flaming scorpion bowls and all this really cool stuff. I mean, if you want to create a generation of alcoholics, take kids to a tiki place, when they're very young and impressionable. So to my surprise, the first place I went to was the Tiki Tea, of course. Ritual baptism. I had a raised mistake. I just thought, well, the drinks are as good as they look. This is weird. It's not false advertising at all. And every other place I went to, there was a place in the valley called the Bamboo Hut. There was still a Trader Vic's in Beverly Hills that if I opted not to do my laundry for a week, I could afford a Mai Tai there.
Tough call.
There were a lot of places still left, but they all started to disappear in the 80s, which was pretty much the cocktail dark ages setting in.
Right.
Not just tiki places, but cocktail bars in general just started to disappear. It was just uncool. So it was what squares did. It was what your parents did. You probably voted for Nixon. You weren't drinking Mai Tais. That's what Republicans did. You were probably just snorting or smoking your way to a comfortable high, instead of drinking. So what I found during that decade was that as I started to actually have some disposable income and I could go to decent restaurants, you would go to a really nice restaurant with really great gourmet food, and the disconnect between the kitchen and the bar was just like a wide gulf. The dish might be impeccable. It might be like the best thing you've ever tasted. And then the margarita you ordered is going to be made with bottled sweet and sour mix. Or nobody knew how to make a martini or whiskey sour or anything like that. Until I was in my late 20s, I thought a daiquiri was something that came in a hurricane glass, frozen like a 7-Eleven Slurpee with whipped cream and a cherry on top.
There are still people that think that.
We literally just learned what a real daiquiri is. I don't know, a month ago or whatever. Yeah, because we were we had like a daiquiri day at Tonga.
Yeah, you're having the same journey. So anyway, what I found was that the sole exception to the shittiness of cocktails in Los Angeles restaurants was tiki places, and some Mexican restaurants like El Cholo made a great margarita, and El Chavo and Silver Lake made a great margarita, and Musso and Frank's. That's the first time it actually had vermouth in it. And I was like,
nice.
And a sidecar, a really good sidecar. But those were exceptions to the rule. The rule was cocktails sucked. Tiki bar cocktails were great. Unfortunately, all the places started to disappear because the fad was dying. And I slowly realized that if I wanted to keep drinking these drinks, I'd have to make them myself. And that's when I started looking for recipes. And that's when I realized all the recipes were pretty much industrial secrets and nobody was going to part with them. And nobody wrote down the really good ones. For example, I would ask Ray Bowen when he was alive at the Tiki Tea, this is a great drink, Ray, what's in it? And he would be just visibly insulted. He goes, rum and fruit juice. Oh, okay. What about this drink? Rum and fruit juice. Oh, all right. And I got that from everybody, So
why do you think that is, the secrecy behind
well,
all the drinks?
It goes back to the 1930s when Don the Beachcomber single-handedly invented the tiki bar with Don's Beach Cafe in Hollywood. Later, Don the Beachcombers. In 1934, his bar went viral as a news item because he was making these incredible, they didn't call them tiki drinks, he called them his rum rhapsodies. And they were just like these incredibly.
I love that.
That's
yeah. I mean, like the Navy Grog, the Zombie, the PE, the Missionary's Downfall. He invented like 60 famous and still fabulous tiki drinks, and everybody ripped him off once his bar became famous because he happened to be in Hollywood and the movie crowd found out about it. And in no time, you had like Orson Welles, Marlene Dietrich, the Marx Brothers, Charlie Chaplin, Howard Hughes was a regular because they'd never tasted drinks like this ever anywhere. He invented the tiki drink, which was basically took that Planter's Punch template, very simple, rum, lime, sugar, and he just dimensionalized every aspect of it. Why just sugar? Let's blend multiple sweeteners together. Why just lime? Let's see what happens if we put grapefruit and other citruses in there. These are the same thing with rum. Why just one rum? Let's blend 3 different rums of different body and character together to create a base spirit in one glass that no one bottle could give you. And those were his rum rhapsodies. And it took Hollywood by storm, and then everybody started to rip him off. And nobody had any idea how to make these drinks. I mean, he was kind of a singular sensation, but they could steal his bartenders. So they started poaching his bartenders, paying them more money. So the 7 Seas on Hollywood Boulevard, 3 blocks away from Don the Beachcombers, across the street from the Chinese Theater, they poached Ray Bowen from Don the Beachcombers. He was one of the original bartenders, and gave him another $15 a week. He was making $40 a week now, and he brought all the recipes with him. And this sort of happened from coast to coast. And by 1937, there were like 150 bars serving essentially Don's menu. And to put a stop to that, he started putting his recipes in code so that the bartenders who were trained there didn't really know what was in the drinks. Like, and for example, instead of a cinnamon syrup, the bottle behind Don's bar would say Don's Spices number 4. And all the way down the line, vanilla would be number 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There would be a Don's mix that went into the Zombie. And the new staff that he didn't trust, that's all they knew. Those are the recipes they knew. So when they were hired away by Zamboanga Joe Chastek to serve drinks at Zamboanga Joe's, they get behind the bar, they're ready to make the drinks, and they go, "Where's your number 4? Where's your number 2?" And it worked.
That's quite genius.
Yeah, it was genius. Actually, it stopped the hemorrhaging. But the cat was pretty much out of the bag by then. And if people didn't exactly know the recipes, they'd just guess and just do shittier versions of the drinks, and nobody seemed to mind because there's a lot of alcohol in them. The upshot of all that was the bartenders who were hired away for more money to make the drinks realized that they had power in their little black books, which is where all the recipes, they kept them all little black, they look like little telephone books in your shirt pocket. I learned from one guy, Bob Esmino, who worked all over the place in the Con Tiki restaurant chain. He told me that most of these guys, including himself, they were guaranteed employment for almost the entire 40-year fad of tiki drinks by not telling their new bosses the full recipes. What Bob used to do was, if somebody hired him so that he could make Zombies and Cobra's Fangs and Missionary's Downfalls for them so that they could cash in on this huge craze, he would say to them, "Okay, yeah, you can hire me. I'll tell you what you need to go buy so I can make the drinks. What I'm not going to tell you is the actual recipe. And if I don't like it here, or if somebody offers me more money, I might just split and take my recipes with me." And they would do that. So knowing the recipes, these little things were like a grimoire. There's like a secret book that no one else shall know. And the less people who knew it, the more valuable you were as a commodity.
Absolutely.
Guys like Ray Bowen, who had spent the entire 60-year careers with that mindset, they weren't going to tell me anything. It was just ingrained in me. It was only after the Grog Log when I could show that to him and say, "Look, I'm not trying to rip you off. I'm just trying to honor you by mentioning you by name," and et cetera, et cetera. Gradually, the floodgates opened, and I started to get recipes for subsequently that were, and again, my apologies to you going through the that were a lot better than the ones that, because the Grog Log is mostly drinks that I could find in a library. The recipes that were actually printed in either old magazines or old cocktail books. And sometimes, like, you lucked out, like Trader Vic toward the end of his life in his 1972 drink book, revealed all the secrets because he didn't have anything to lose. He was a multimillionaire. He had a chain of 20 restaurants. It didn't matter to him if people knew how to make the drinks at that point because they were still going to go to Trader Vic's instead of spending 30 minutes at home trying to make a fog cutter, So all of Trader Vic's secrets were revealed, but Don the Beachcomber never, ever published any of his recipes. He would publish the ones I have in the Grog Log are the ones that he would simplify and modify and strip down so that he would feel comfortable having them printed. But they weren't the real thing. Even Trader Vic used to tell us, I remember I did a tiki dinner in Beverly Hills one time, and this old lady who used to be a Trader Vic's regular and knew Vic said that Vic told her, you never tell everything. You never reveal everything. So the secrecy was like a huge deal.
That's just so interesting.
What was the decision for you to go out on this journey? The idea for the Grog Log, when you set out, what was that decision like?
Well, my original motive was very selfish. I just wanted to know how to make a good drink, and specifically a good tiki drink. And I thought at this time, I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s, at the time, this was before the internet, when meeting people who shared similar interests to you was just completely random. Well, if you're interested in punk music, you just go to a punk club and you're going to meet other punk people, but it's not the same with tiki. It's like, I thought I was the only person in the world who was interested in this. And I wasn't just interested in the drinks. I was interested in the music, the clothing, the furniture, the design, the architecture, all of it interested me.
For the listener, I just want to let you know that Beachbum is not sitting in a suit and tie right now as we talk.
He looks the part.
He looks the part. This is clearly not somebody who just was like, I like a Polynesian drink. This is somebody that likes everything about this. I very authentic.
The whole
it's
world.
A lifestyle.
This was my world. It was like really gratifying back in the early 90s to meet one other person in the name of Sven Kirsten who was into it. We couldn't believe that we both had collections of like tiki statues and mugs that we'd gotten at swap meets and thrift stores and all that. The stuff was just out there, but we didn't know what it was. And that was the exciting part, is like, we were like what Sven calls urban archaeologists. The mugs were in thrift stores. The Martin Denny music were in thrift stores, furniture, the clothing, the aloha shirts, all this stuff was just like yours for the taking for no money at all. But we didn't know the history of it. Where was this? What was the Aku Aku? What were all these other places? Very often, our signature mug, as you know, would have the name of the restaurant and the location on it. And that would very often be your only clue. There's no internet to look it up on, but you somehow or other, you try to dig this stuff up. Finding many of these places was a huge key to what went on. And then looking up old newspaper articles in the library, microfilm and all that shit. And finding out more and finding out the people behind all this stuff. It was just uncovering a lost layer of like suburban history, mostly. Now, of course, it's all over, all over the place with the internet and with tiki festivals and all that stuff, which is awesome. I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm really glad it's here.
Yeah.
But anyway, first it was Sven and me, and then Sven started collecting other tiki people the way he collected tiki mugs and stuff. He was like really good at it. And he would meet other people. This guy called himself Otto von Stroheim, still does. He runs Tiki Oasis now. And he was just this surfer living in Venice. And he would throw backyard luau's. I'm finally getting back to answering your question.
You're all good. No, these stories are
go wherever you want with this.
But anyway, he threw these backyard luau's. And I had taken among all the other aspects of Polynesian pop, I had taken a particular interest in the drink. So he had me do the punches. And unlike Ray Doolan and all those other rum and fruit juice guys, somebody came up and said, "This is pretty cool. What's in it?" I would give them the recipe. And eventually I just typed up the recipes, put a little vintage artwork from menus and coasters and matchbooks and stuff on there, and slapped them together, went to a Xerox store or Kinko's or whatever, and put it together, a little zine-like menu guide. And I would just hand that out at parties, say, "This is all I know." And it had several of the recipes that ended up in the Grog Log. There may be 20 recipes in it in the little booklet. One of the booklets found its way up to San Jose, where there was a comic book publisher, Dan Vado, still runs Slave Labor Graphics, is the name of the company. And he turns out he was into tiki. And he said, "Do you want to just do a tiki drink book?" Which became the Grog Log. The only place you could get it originally in the mid 90s was in comic book stores.
Wow.
because that's the only distribution he had. It was a comic book company. He hadn't done books before. Plus, it was
So
spiral bound, so
interesting.
no bookstore wanted anything to do with it because you couldn't put it, on the shelf and see the part on the spine. The only other place you could get it was Soap Plant, which was on Melrose at the time, and later went. I think it's still in Silver Lake.
It's still there.
Still is, okay.
I've gotten like a graphic novel there in recent years.
They were really great about having the latest graphic novels and kitschy stuff and really cool
Yeah,
decor.
it's still like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least the last time I was there. Yeah.
So anyway, that one book led to another. And by the way, this is my hobby. I wasn't making a dime off it. It was costing me money because at the time I should have.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, this I know.
Yeah, you guys know all about this, right? Yeah.
Having a great time though. So
yeah. You mean your roller coaster podcast isn't financing your lavish life?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah.
I was losing money on it because I was taking time away from the time I should have been spending doing Hollywood stuff. So it was the hobby that kind of took over.
Very
my life,
relevant.
Yeah, and I was kind of at that point I was addicted. I'm ever more curious about the recipes and the history and all that. The Grog Log led to Intoxica, and Intoxica led to the cookbook Taboo Table. That led to Sip and Safari, and then remixed, and which was the cherry-picked version of Grog Log and Intoxica, where you don't have to drink all the crappy drinks you guys are drinking. And so on and so forth. It turned out to be a very fortunate waste of time for me because
a very fortunate waste of time might be the title
of this episode.
I wrote that down. I was like, oh man, that speaks to me.
It's like
that will be my memoir.
It's
Corey,
Dave and I's MO is like having a good time, and it's a very unfortunate waste of time, but we're doing great.
Corey and Dave. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I had about a pretty good 8-year run as a script doctor. I did a lot of stuff for Disney, a lot of stuff for DreamWorks and Universal, and some stuff for Warner's. But eventually, long story short, the movie career was kind of dying out. And I wasn't really all that into it anymore anyway, because things had gotten so corporate. It wasn't show business anymore. It was just business, and I wasn't getting any younger. And when you hit 40, you're basically aging out of the rewrite market, and I had one directing
just speaking directly. You're speaking into my soul right now. I'm an out of work comedy producer right now for the last year.
You share my, here's to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I felt your pain. I don't feel it anymore, but I felt it. Long story short, the Tiki revival started to happen just as the movie career was kind of petering out. And the cocktail revival, the whole cocktail renaissance was on a parallel track with the Tiki revival. And cocktails were suddenly this new thing that kids were drinking again. And everybody was very excited by it. And there was a lot of creativity going on. And I got introduced to that world, and it was a very accepting, creative, energized world, and it was everything that Hollywood wasn't at that time. So, this is exciting. Can I make a living doing this? And the short answer was no, not in the short run, because I thought maybe I can make a living writing cocktail books, as everybody was doing cocktail books. And I am here to tell you that you can't pay the rent writing cocktail books. But I did actually start to make a living because of all the cocktail festivals that were happening, and the Tiki festivals were happening, and people were actually paying for me to travel and speak at these festivals in Europe, Latin America, the US, eventually even Hawaii, which was amazing.
That's cool.
And it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of a dream job. It's still not making me enough money, but maybe there's a way. And it was Mrs. Baum who dragged me kicking and screaming into opening a bar, which finally did. It was like, okay, I think we can eke out an actual living doing something we actually like to do now. And so basically what happened was that Tiki gave me a second act. F. Scott Fitzgerald famously said there's no second acts in American life. I'm here to tell you that F. Scott was wrong. So
what does he know?
It's a beautiful thing, and I'm going to enjoy it as long as it lasts.
Yeah, well, F. Scott, like a second act in a life. People were living how long?
Yep, that's a good point, Dave. He didn't really live long enough to have a second act. He died in his 40s alcoholism.
I think early 40s from alcoholism. Yeah.
So there are about 80 recipes, give or take, in the Grog Log. How did you land on just those? Were those the ones that you found and you were just like, okay, I'm cutting it off. This is it. This is all I can do right now? Or how did we land on these?
Struggling to get enough recipes for a book. And that's one reason why I included a lot of B and C list drinks, because they did have some kind of historical provenance. Either the place they came from was of some interest, like the cocoa palms in Kauai, where Elvis shot Blue Hawaii, or some other place that movie stars used to go. I mean, if the drink still wasn't that good, but good enough, I mean, I wouldn't let anything that I actively hated on.
But the history is very cool. Like I found that when we're drinking the drinks, and we normally let the bartender just pick for us. But when we then look at your book and like read about it, it makes it even more fascinating. So I could see like the history of where the drink was from becoming something that got in the book, even if it wasn't your favorite. Yeah.
Corey, you just nailed the whole ethos of doing it. Yeah. Which is like, I mean, the drinks for me were a window onto a piece of history that I was interested in,
Yeah.
And it was great to be able to drink a bit of history, to drink something that Elvis might have drunk at Cocoa Palms in 1962.
I mean, it gives me chill bumps when you even just said it. That's cool, right?
So some of those drinks, they didn't age well. They were not really up to snuff, but I put them in the book because I called them squeakers. And oddly enough, and the irony of some of this, one of the squeakers was a drink called the Jungle Bird, which I didn't think was that great a drink, but it was from the Kuala Lumpur Hilton in Malaysia. Well, that's pretty cool. And more than that, it had Campari in it, which was one of the few tiki drinks that I've ever seen that had, I mean, Trader used red vermouth in some drinks, but the only tiki drink I've ever seen that used Campari was the Jungle Bird. So I put it in there just as a curiosity. And then that's the one that went viral. Some New York bartenders, Richie Brocado, cut the pineapple juice in half, switched out a much darker rum, and created a pretty delicious drink. And that took New York by storm. And that was the gateway to tiki for a lot of craft cocktail people who just looked down their nose at tiki.
It's interesting.
I mean, they thought tiki was, these are sweet, syrupy, slushy cruise ship drinks. This is what we're trying to get away from with craft cocktails. They didn't realize that tiki drinks were the original craft cocktails before there was a name for it. They were using fresh citrus. They were making their own syrups and tinctures and et cetera, et cetera.
That's awesome. Do you have favorite from the Grog Log and maybe a least favorite from the Grog Log?
Yeah. Oh, I've got a least favorite, all right, but I think I blocked it out of my mind. You'll know it when you taste it.
Okay. You're not gonna...
The standout least favorite that everybody mentions is stay away from the Beachcombers Gold.
Yeah.
Oh, the 70s version? Oh, yeah.
That's what everyone has warned us of.
I'd agree with that. I'll throw in my lot with that. That's the one.
Okay.
And you'll notice that's not in Remix. I cut that right now. It was in the Esquire drink book in 1956, and it says it's from Down the Beachcomber. And it's like,
that's so cool.
Well, that's good enough for me. Again, historical provenance. I would never drink it, but I got to put it in.
So that one is one of those time capsule like history lessons, but I didn't think anybody was going to like a prank drink kind of.
As far as my favorites, there's a lot of drinks in there that were a revelation to me when I finally tried them. But for me, the drink that kind of blew my mind and I thought was just one of the most exceptional things I've ever tasted was the Navy Grog at Trader Vic's. And that's what really did it for me. And that's what really sent me into this ridiculous quest. I mean, the Navy Grog in the Grog Log is not the final version that Don did, but it's close. It does have honey and grapefruit and 3 rum.
We just had it on Wednesday.
It's so funny. We just had that
bartender at Tonga just told us that same thing. Honestly, Navy Grog was one of the first ones, first tiki drinks I've ever had that like also got me interested in tiki. So I'm pretty nostalgic for it. It was pretty good at Tonga,
Corey, where'd you have your first Navy Grog? Do you remember?
My dad was super into like Disney themed entertainment, tiki. Okay. It might have been at like the Polynesian and Disney World, honestly.
But Disney World did serve a Navy Grog, and I have the recipe for it, and it is quite similar to the one in the Grog Log. So maybe that's the thing.
I would venture to say that's probably where I had my first one. Yeah, because that was definitely something that got me interested in tiki culture. Was like staying there, growing up, similar to your story with like the restaurant and stuff.
Oh, sure.
I was just fascinated and captivated by all aspects of it, for sure.
Oh, Disney did it up. If you did a Venn diagram, there's a huge confluence of tiki people and Disney people. And very often they're one and the same. because of the Enchanted Tiki Room or because of the Polynesian Hotel in Orlando.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. One of the things that got me into Tiki before I ever even went to Alphonse was going to Adventureland in Disneyland in Anaheim. And at the time they had the very first Tiki I bought was at a little outdoor kiosk where they were selling Disney souvenirs. And one of them was like an Easter Island moai made out of black stone. And it was maybe 6 inches high. So that was one of my earliest memories. And then going to the Enchanted Tiki Room, of course. But favorite drinks, the Navy Grog, the Trader Vic's Navy Grog differed from it. And I tried to recreate it. I don't know if it's in the Grog Log, but the Ancient Mariner was my attempt to recreate the Vic's Navy Grog. And
that's our first drink. We really liked that one.
Yeah, that would be one of my top drinks. And it's not just because I was just trying to reverse engineer Vic's. It's nothing too creative on my part, but that I think would be the one that's really lasted and the one that I would drink over the Grog Log's Beachcomber Grog.
Sure.
Just because of that allspice taste,
Yeah.
The La Florida cocktail was pretty brilliant. That was from Constantino in Havana at the La Floridita bar where Trader Vic went, got the recipe, went back to Oakland, created Trader Vic's and put that drink on his first menu, La Florida. There's another drink called the Hawaiian Room, which comes from the Hawaiian Room in Manhattan. It was in sort of a really ritzy hotel in Manhattan. And the Hawaiian Room, it had a really interesting history. That's where Steve Allen used to broadcast one of his early TV talk shows from. And Hilo Hattie became a star at the Hawaiian Room with the orchestra behind her. A lot of really famous old names were associated with the Hawaiian Room. The drink's pretty good. It's another short drink. It's a coupe drink. But what sets that apart from all the other umpteen Tiki cocktails that sometimes all start to sound the same is that it uses apple brandy, which is a nice combination.
It is funny because we often say like, okay, this one has pineapple juice, light Puerto Rican rum, dark Jamaican rum, and simple syrup, and or passion fruit. And it's just like, how many different variations, but it's just like, I mean, the balances of this. And like you told me earlier, oh, you're drinking that drink, but with the wrong rum. Yeah. Like that can definitely make a difference in the cocktail. And
it makes 2 different drinks.
So 2009, Tonga Hut decides to do a Grog Log challenge. How did you learn about that? And what did you think when they approached you or talked to you?
They never approached me.
Oh,
you never approached me. God. I didn't know about it. And it started in 2009? Really?
That's what the internet said. So I mean,
I had no idea that it was started that early.
I can't believe they didn't ask you.
No, they never asked me. They just did it, which is fine with me. I love it. I think it's an awesome thing to do. I went out of my way to go to the Tonga Hut and do an event there not too long ago, just because I thought it was so cool that they did that. I think I found out maybe 5 years after they started.
That's crazy.
And I thought, well, that's cool. But that was the end of it. It's just like, okay. Remember, I've had all the drinks.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to have been grandfathered in at this point. Yeah. Like, you don't have to actually have a sheet.
Do they give you a certificate or a pin?
Yeah, once you finish
some of those drinks, I think you should have like a combat medal you could pin on your...
Maybe we'll make our own thing. Yeah.
The Cruzana cured a sinus infection a couple of weeks ago.
That's another incredibly bad drink that I would never...
It was... Yeah, like I said,
Robitussin.
We normally just do like the bartender's choice with what we have left on the sheet. And when the bartender made that for us and handed it to me.
The Cruzana might actually be my least favorite beyond the other one we talked about, because I found it on the back of a 1960s Cruisian rum matchbook. And I thought, I found a recipe, from Christmas. So I put it in, but I would never serve that drink in 2000.
That was definitely one of the ones we labeled as would not have again.
Off the Grog Log, not even talk about that. What's your go-to all-time favorite drink?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, the missus and I have our own bar now, and I'll just tell you what I order when I go there. I've got 2 different things I usually go right to. One of them is the rum barrel, which is Don the Beachcomber spec, which you can find in Sippin' Safari. That's a drink that has like 12 ingredients. It takes forever to make. So I love the fact that we have a staff that can make it for me. I can just go and sit down and order one, and voila, there it is. And the Trader Vic's Navy Grog, that's still, after all these years, that's still a go-to.
It's a staple.
Yeah. Ray Bowen, the Tiki Tea's Puka Punch, I was so stoked that they finally gave me a recipe, and that's in Intoxica, by the way. The Puka is way up there. It was a very simple drink that's in the Grog Log, actually, which I found in a book published in Australia in the early 60s called Polynesian Food that had a drink called the Bulu in it. And I think that's a delicious drink.
The Bulu is the one they give you last
So
on the Grog Log.
Yeah, this is your reward.
Yeah. You bring your own pineapple and they put it in the pineapple for you.
It's like a nice ceremony.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool because that's a nice reward after having a cruzana and a.
Do you have a favorite way to cheers or toast friends?
Yeah, well, it used to be Okole Maluna, which back in the 50s and 60s was this is what Don Ho used to say, and everybody and everyone. It was the Hawaiian version of cheers. Turns out that basically means ass. Okole is a word for that for your ass, and
well, we got a new cheers.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
And it's based on as far as I could tell, the etymology of it, it's based on the old blubber pots that whalers used to use to reduce whale fat. They just boil it. There were two of them, and it kind of looked like a human butt. And Hawaiian for that is okole. The blubber pots were what the original makers of okuleau, the Hawaiian spirit, the Hawaiian moonshine. That's how they distilled it in these old whaler blubber pots. Okole must have been adopted from that. Okuleau is the name of the Hawaiian moonshine that was distilled. So it basically means tastes like ass.
So funny.
So
I love that.
I've been corrected by some people who know better, who said that the real way to say cheers in Hawaii is come out. K-A-M-A-U, come out. So that's what I'm doing. Come out.
Nice. Perfect.
We talked about a little bit about Disneyland and theme parks in general. That's, in our DNA. We love that. Would you say that Disneyland is your favorite theme park?
I'll tell you what, I have mixed feelings about Disneyland because when I was a child, it was Mecca. And people really cared about it. People like Raleigh Crump.
Raleigh Crump is awesome.
The Imagineers and the things they did were just like really good tiki restaurant interiors were designed so that every single part of it, no matter where you looked, up, down, side, wherever, was themed, and you felt like you were in a total environment. And Disneyland held up for me up until I went back again in the aughts, and I thought, they don't care anymore. Disneyland was always using corporate shills. They were always using corporate money. Like Tomorrowland, my favorite land, pretty much, when it looked like 2001, with the House of the Future and the rockets, the moon and all that, and the Monsanto, right? Sure, Monsanto, United Airlines, AT&T, they were all corporate sponsors, but they made something really cool and all-encompassing and just fed your imagination and fed your soul as a child. And now, maybe it's because I'm older. I don't think so. I mean, when I go back, they don't.
No, this is a constant conversation with Dave and I.
We literally were texting at 11:45 last night about how we think that Tomorrowland might be a teardown at this point.
It's just
because it's just not what it was.
No, what's this Jules Verne shit? It just doesn't compute. The same with all the other lands. They don't care as much. Like when I went into Fantasyland, there was nothing left to the imagination. Everything looked so much like you're in a medieval Black Forest village or whatever. But now you can see all the seams and you can see how
the magic is gone in that way a little bit when they tear stuff down and build new things.
I feel like it is. And I know it's not just me, because there are people who love Disney more than life itself who still feel that way. There are adult Disney fans who I know.
Yeah. You're looking at two of them. Yeah.
But the thing about Walt was he cared.
Mm-hmm. His vision was his vision, and he was going to make it happen.
Yeah, he wasn't just thinking about quarterly profits and earnings for shareholders and the New York Stock Exchange. He was thinking about doing the best possible experience, for people.
We haven't really had a CEO or head of Disney for the last, 20 years that has had a similar mentality to him,
Their mentality is, how do we increase shareholder value, not how do we increase customer enjoyment.
Dave and I were just texting about this last night, that they
It's
don't.
so funny.
The bottom line is they don't care about the average customer enjoyment anymore. It's become a big manufacturing cog of printing money, essentially.
And why is Japan's parks look so much better than our parks? And
because they actually give them, the Imagineers, the money to do the amazing things.
And they're not worried about the bottom line.
It's funny you should mention that. I have not been to the Tokyo or the Japanese Disneyland, but I would imagine it's closer to the experience that you would have had at Disneyland in Anaheim or in Orlando, Disney World, back in the day, because the Japanese are so tradition minded and because they keep something that works going. And my corollary example of that is the Trader Vic's in Tokyo. I went there a few years ago and I was just blown away by how it felt like probably like going to Trader Vic's in the 1950s felt. They kept everything important, all the details that were missing from every other Vic's. Like they still have the Tiki stems, amber cocktail glasses. They still made the drinks the way they made them back in the day when Vic was alive, and used the same rums, and which is not necessarily the case in other Vic's. And the love was there, and the respect for tradition, which is a very Japanese thing, was there as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Japanese Disneyland didn't give you the experience you feel you don't get anymore in the mainland.
I went 5 years ago on my honeymoon with my wife, and it was exactly what you said. What I remember about going to Disney World as a very young kid, walking into those parks there, and that experience was a feeling I haven't had since I was a young kid.
Yeah. And of course, and it's really hard to measure because you think, well, you're grown up now. You have a different perspective. Things are being imprinted on your memory as a child that you've never seen before. But I don't buy that as an excuse for what Disney is now, because there are certain things you go to and it's like, no, I still feel it. I still
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I got the feeling. You live in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Where
New Orleans.
I was fortunate enough. I took my first trip to New Orleans a couple of years ago, and I had that feeling walking through authentic New Orleans and just like, Disney's New Orleans Square.
Pretty good. It's
right. It hasn't been large.
They haven't touched it too much.
Largely not touched.
The Blue Bayou was a brilliant interior. With a little fireflies and everything.
But I got that feeling walking through New Orleans and just, and just being in these authentic environments. So.
Well, yeah, it's David, it's no accident that we moved here, and you just nailed why. There's no city in America besides New Orleans that feels ungeneric now to me, including New York. I mean, New York's also becoming a chain store, corporate nothing. But New Orleans, you step into the French Quarter off the airport shuttle, and it's like, where has this place been all my life? This is the architecture and the music. There are Juilliard trained musicians playing on the street. The food culture. It has its own indigenous cuisine, which no other city in America could say, and it has its own indigenous music. Culture.
When I went, I only had 2 days, which is, of course, not enough. But I will say that I started my New Orleans vacation adventure at latitude 29.
No way. Really?
Yeah, I did. And I'll tell you, it led to one of the greatest drinking nights of my life. One of the best nights that I've had as an adult adventuring around a city in my life.
Wow. Hey, high praise indeed.
The bartender was Toure. Does he still work there?
Yeah, we love Toure. He's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's so great. I sat down there, and even though I've been looking forward to going to latitude 29, that I would probably be doing myself a disservice if I just stayed there the entire night.
There's other places to go. Yes.
Yeah. So I started my
anywhere else, but
Yeah, I started my night there. And just got to talking to him, and I said, okay, where's my next bar? Where am I going next? And he said, go see my friend Erica down the street. She's one of the best. And,
Erica's at Compare La Pond.
And he said, send her this. And he gave me a little to-go drink.
Oh, he gave you a boomerang.
And then I took it to her, and I walked in with it, and she's like, that's from Toure. You were at latitude 29. He's the fucking best. And now you're my friend. and I plopped down at that bar, and that led to the next bar, and that led to, and I was like, this all happened just because the magic of the city.
Yeah.
Like I just believe that the magic being the city, the people, and to me, honestly, honest to God, I think it's Tiki as well. It starts with that because it has bartenders who care about the drinks. And that's what I've seen with you, and caring about the history of these cocktails and the history of these recipes enough that you're looking them up in Matchbox, matchboxes, and wanting to put them into a recipe book that might not be the best recipe, but is culturally important and historically important. So you like it
historically accurate.
So you put it in there because you love everything. It's dedication and it's love for all of this, not just like the love. Oh, I like rum. It's not just that. And that speaks through your bar. I think like Latitude 29, it's just such a beautiful place, like the Tiki Diablo, like map in the back. I'm just like, I'm sitting down and I feel ultimately comfortable enough to talk to the bartender and just rap with him. And then he feels comfortable enough with me to send me off with a to-go container of alcohol. And that is the reason why I love this so much. And that's the reason why I'm doing this podcast and why I enjoy spending this time with my friend. And that's why we call this my time, because it's just our time.
It's our time.
It's our time to share.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you. And
it's definitely one of the things we very quickly caught on to with doing Grog Log at Tonga was we see the same people there every week. It's such a nice community, a very welcoming community. And obviously you certainly played a big role in that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this be doing this without you. So this is my long-winded way of saying thank you. Thank you. And thank you for not only for your time today. I really appreciate that. This is awesome. This has been so great, but thank you for everything.
Well, that makes me so happy. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for saying that. That's why we do it. It's for the love of it. And the fact that love was picked up on by you and you enjoyed yourself and having a good time. That's all we're trying to do. I mean, I call it aloha bartending. It's just like, you don't just want to serve people a good drink. You want to serve them a friendly atmosphere where they feel welcome. And the Polynesian word I think is ho'okipa, which means the act of total hospitality. It's like when somebody comes into your house, you just offer them everything. That's what I want when I go into a bar. And the fact that you experience that makes me very happy, very, very happy. So thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. I would love to have a drink with you guys. And
that'd be awesome.
I'd love to.
You sound like my kind of people.
It's
like, I feel a kindred spirit with both of you guys.
Yeah, it's very easy to talk to you and stuff because absolutely same like-minded. Yeah.
Before we go, I just want to thank you again.
Thank you so much. This was a delight.
This was amazing.
What was my
yes.
We're back and we're ready to drink. All right, you've been listening to that. We've been drinking. We've been drinking while you.
Maybe.
I got very excited with how the interview went, so I pressed the stop record button before we officially said bye and thanks.
Yeah, because we talked for a while.
We talked for a while, and I hit stop recording. He was so gracious with his time. We could have talked for hours. We did talk for hours. We're gonna drink one of the drinks that he mentioned in our interview. It's called a Hawaii room.
It's in a coupe glass.
It's in a coupe glass. It's got a beautiful little orchid in it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit on the yellow side.
It's a light colored yellow. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He said it was one of the easier drinks. I guess it's one of his favorites.
Sure.
We're going to cheers the Jeff Beachbum Berry way.
Let's do it.
And we're going to say, come out.
Come out. To my pig.
Yeah, to my pig and to the OG pig, Jeff Beachbum Berry.
Oh, okay.
It's tart as shit.
It's tart.
It's tart, baby.
But I like it. It's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
It tastes like, not full lemon drop, but like lemon drop mixed with something.
Yeah, what is that mixed with?
Do you know what I mean?
It's like a sweet candy. It tastes like sweet candy. It's a sweet candy that I can't place.
Lemon drop mixed with like a sweet tart meshed in it or something.
This is sweet as shit.
It's very sweet.
This is almost
lemon drop with limoncello, maybe kind of.
Lemon drop and limoncello and
a little sweetener.
Yeah, it's a little.
I like it though. Like,
Yeah,
would I
it's
drink
good.
more than one in a night? Probably not, but
No.
it's tasty. It's strong.
It's strong. It's a little strong. It's a quick drinker, I think. Okay. Caveat: this is the third drink tonight
That we're recording.
and it's maybe gonna put me over the edge. Okay, it's called a Hawaii Room. It's got lemon juice, pineapple juice, Applejack, triple sec, and light Puerto Rican rum. You heard Beachbum give a much better description about it than I could ever. What do we rate this bad boy?
Let me get one more sip.
Holy crap, you're almost done with it.
Well, it's small.
It's a small drink, but
I've got a big mouth and it's small. So I've had 2 sips and it's about halfway done. 3.75.
oh,
I would recommend it for somebody. I wouldn't not drink it again myself. The coops are also like easier for me to digest because they're smaller.
yeah.
So like I have more leniency for them.
What would I give this? I'd give it. Hold on, I'm gonna drink it again. 3.25. It's good.
I said
It's
3.5, so we're
okay,
pretty close.
It's pretty good. Okay, we're gonna go finish this drink. Corey is almost finished her drink. Now I gotta catch up.
He's getting it. One more sip. There he is. I love talking to Beachbum. It honestly made me feel so confident in what we're doing.
Yeah.
He was so positive and friendly to us, and I thank him very much.
Oh my God. Beachbum says, if you want to create a generation of alcoholics, take kids to a tiki place.
Literally the next week, we all went to Disneyland Hotel and stayed in I's view of Trader Sam's.
Literally.
And did the whole menu.
Yeah.
So,
literally the very next week, we had our kids at Trader Sam's.
not a joke.
And I loved also, he called the drinks that kind of suck, but are in here, squeakers. So we got to call them squeakers now.
Yeah, I like that term.
So listen, hit us up on our Instagram.
At My Time the Podcast.
DM us. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Leave a comment. For Christ's sake.
For Christ's sake, leave us a comment.
Let's not get so aggressive. Leave us a comment, please.
For Tiki's sake.
For Tiki's sake. It'd make us feel good. We'll comment. We'll talk to you. Let's talk about this shit. Let's have an open dialogue.
And if you want to leave us a voicemail and give us a toast or a cheers, or just tell us you're enjoying our podcast, please give us a call at
559-WE-DRUNK, which is 559-933-7865.
Look after our YouTube at My Time the Podcast.
Yeah, there's probably shit there now.
By the time you're hearing this,
there's probably shit there now. Did you see it?
maybe it's good. Maybe it's not.
Did we talk about it, huh?
Maybe we're trying.
Yeah, we're trying. We are trying. Not maybe we're trying. We are trying hard.
We're tryhards.
We're tryhards. Oh, God. Oh, I hate us.
No, but I love us.
Okay. Did you already tell them about our Gmail?
MyTimeThePodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's it. Email us
All right.
there.
We love you all.
Look, listen. If we don't use it, we lose it. So if you don't email us, they're going to take it.
They're going to take it away from us.
They're going to take it away from us. And then you're going to try to email us and it's not going to be there anymore.
That's fair.
And then who's going to be happy about that? Nobody. You think we want
All right,
that?
Grave. Let's wrap it up.
All right. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a minute to rate and review it on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your show, wherever you listen to this shit. So for Gory.
And for Grave.
That's it. That's our show.
Mahalo.
Bye.